In this module, we will cover the contracts and specifics for Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions, European Research Area Fellowships, and the European Research Council grants. MSCA and ERA fellows must be recruited by beneficiaries under an employment contract or other direct contract with equivalent benefits, including Social Security coverage. Exceptionally, if not otherwise possible under national law, the researcher may be hired under a fixed amount fellowship agreement with minimum Social Security coverage. However, this requires prior approval from the granting authority and leads to 50% reduction of the living allowance. Article 18, respectively Annex 5 of the Horizon Europe Unit Model Grant Agreement specifies, the contract with the researcher must include the following details: the name of the training supervisor, the starting date and duration of the training, the monthly support in euro and, if relevant, in the currency in which the remuneration is paid, the obligation to work exclusively for the action, the obligation not to receive for the same activities other incomes, the working pattern of the researcher, the arrangements related to the intellectual property rights, in particular full access on a royalty-free basis to background and results needed for their activities under the action, the obligation of the researcher to inform as soon as possible about any circumstances likely affecting the implementation of the action, the obligation to maintain confidentiality and ensure the visibility of EU funding. Where set out in the call conditions, the contract must include the obligation of the researcher to carry out a mandatory return period of 12 months. The project officers mostly require the contract with the researcher to be in English. Another contract type related to MSCA and ERA fellowship projects is the partnership agreement, or the agreement with an associated partner. We introduced this contract type in Module 3. Now we will explore it further in the MSCA and ERA fellowships context. The beneficiary, acting as the host institution, will conclude the partnership agreement with the associated partner, another institution responsible for training the researcher, for example, during the outgoing phase of the project. The agreement should serve three main purposes: oblige the associated partner to follow the specific articles of the grant agreement. We have already described those in Module 3. Guarantee that the associated partner creates a supportive environment for the researcher, ensuring comparable standards and working conditions similar to local researchers holding a similar position, adequate supervision, and appropriate career guidance. And finally, establish terms for other aspects of cooperation between two institutions within the project, such as financial terms or rights to intellectual property generated by the researcher while trained by the associated partner. As a starting point, when drafting the MSCA or ERA Fellowships Partnership Agreement, you can use the helpful template published by the EU Liaison Office of the German Research Organizations, available on their website. In ERC projects, beneficiaries must establish a formal contractual relationship with the principal investigator in the form of a standard employment contract and so-called supplementary agreement. As specified in Annex 5 of the Model Grant Agreement, a supplementary agreement must be concluded before signing the grant agreement and should cover additional practical issues that may arise in relation to the project. An official model supplementary agreement, including all necessary points listed in Annex 5, is available on the ERC website or in the annotated Model Grant Agreement. In ERC project with several principal investigators, each host institution concludes the supplementary agreement with their respective principal investigator. For the ERC multi-beneficiary grants, consortium agreements are not required by the Horizon Europe rules, but it is certainly advisable.